And this is the Product Mentor Talk. Today we're joined by one of our mentors, Taya Page, to lead a talk on problem statement definition. She's Director of Product over at Artsy. And maybe for those of you joining us for the first time, let me just briefly explain the format. People you see on the bottom of your screen are mentors and mentees within the current session of the Product Mentor Program, a program that takes product managers and pairs them up with great mentors all around the world in the field of product management to help make better product people, better product decisions, better products as well, hopefully along the way. So let's just quickly go around with some very quick introductions, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about how to participate and a little bit about myself. With that said, I'll start with the person closest to me as always, and start with Taya.
Hey everyone, as Jeremy mentioned, I am the product director at Artsy. We're a fine art marketplace startup where I manage the iOS marketplace and enterprise teams, and I'm excited to be presenting today.
Excellent. And we will now go to Rashid.
Hi everyone, this is Rashid Manzar. I'm in this program as a mentee. I'm based out of Toronto and I work as product manager at ADP.
Excellent. And next up is John.
Hey everyone, this is John Kress. I'm a product manager at Barnes & Noble. I live in New York and I'm a mentee in the program.
And Felix.
Hi everyone, my name is Felix Sargent. I'm the Director of Developer Relations at MediaMath, and my mentee is Kojo.
Excellent. And I am Jeremy Horn, aka the product guy, and I'll be moderating here today. If you're joining us, if you'd like to ask some questions, you go to theproductmentor.com/live. You'll see the live video feed on the top of the page, and then along the bottom of the page, you'll see a great place to ask some questions. The more generic questions we'll save for the end of the talk, and we're going to address some questions that have already been posted there towards the end of this talk as well. But the more topically related questions, we will feed over to Taya in fairly real time, so we can get everyone engaged and get as many questions answered as possible. But with all that said, let's get going, and I'll hand it over to Taya.
Hey everybody, like Jeremy mentioned, if you're just joining, my name is Taya, and I'm so excited to be a mentor in this cohort. Working with Vipul, my mentee, has been really rewarding and has helped me refine my own product thinking. So today I'd like to share a framework that has helped me refine some of these vague ideas into concrete, measurable product features. In the agenda for today, this presentation was advertised as problem statement definition, but as product managers, we're used to recasting problems into opportunities, so you'll hear me referring to this presentation as opportunity statement definition as we go forward. So a little bit about my background. I'm currently the product director at Artsy. As I mentioned, we're a fine art marketplace startup. And there I manage our product teams on our iOS app, our marketplace. So what you see is artsy.net on the website, as well as the enterprise teams that are developing tools for our gallery partners to help them sell their art online. I've been working in product management for over 10 years at companies that have been focused on career management, local advertising platforms, mobile apps, and my first product experience was in EdTech. So like a lot of the other mentors that you've heard from today, I came to product through related disciplines. Myself, I came from engineering and design, and my academic background was originally in fine art and computer science. I was in school during the first .com boom and subsequent bust, so I've certainly seen firsthand the effects of building products that don't address the real measurable user need. So I really hope that the topic that we covered today will give you guys the tools to apply some of this rigorous methodology to breaking down potential opportunities. So I'm sure everybody on the call today is very used to being inundated with ideas from all angles, whether it's from your engineering team, sales, your brother's cousin's friend who wants to build an app, and of course your own instincts and creativity. So while there are a few truly bad ideas out there, most of what you hear is very reasonable. Yes, our features do seem hard to use, and yes, a location-based app really does seem like it would be cool. So with all this potential, how can we actually figure out what to build? When we're looking at these sentiments here, I'm sure all of you have heard some version of these at some point, and really imagine trying to prioritize and wireframe. It becomes apparent really quickly that even if it seems like the best idea in the world, there's not enough specificity in any of these sentiments to really know where to get started. So feelings are important. Products are used by people to solve needs to make sure that they have lots and lots of good feelings. But as you might have seen in my bio, my Myers-Briggs is an ENTJ, and so as somebody who's very far on the thinking as opposed to the feeling scale, what I like to do is explain product management to others as really the science of turning feelings into facts. For any of you guys who turned into Dan's 10 a.m. talk about how to develop a UX experiments backlog, he touched upon the need to apply the scientific method to some of these ideas. And I'm going to go into a bit more detail, building on that one particular point of his longer backlog presentation. So we see the same approach in the way that user stories are structured. As a shopper, I need a way to do X so that I can achieve Y. But in my experience, what seems super clear in a presentation deck is a lot harder to adhere to rigorously on a daily basis when you're so immersed in the product and it feels like your instincts can be brought into production without a lot of validation. So what I'd really like to do is share an example of this in practice from a real product opportunity I had at a former job. And we can see how it's a lot harder done than said. So I used to hear this a lot. Back when I worked on a job search project, this was a sentiment that often was repeated both internally by those people in our customer service department all the way up to the CEO, and also something that we had heard in our customer feedback channels as well. There's this internal feeling that our job search results were not optimal. But how do we actually know if this was true? How would we define better search results? How would we even know if our users agreed with our assessment of what better search results even were? So by breaking down this sentiment according to this opportunity statement framework, we really force ourselves to be good scientists. We have to call out assumptions, we have to support our claims with data, propose measurable experiments, and really be honest about results. I will often write literally in this Mad Lib style framework on a whiteboard, just to ensure that I'm not glossing over some of the hard work of designing a rigorous experiment and sticking to it. And it's something I've also used with junior PMs very often in order to help kind of guide their thinking towards a more experiment-based, hypothesis-based framework. So we see in this first piece here that the opportunity statement begins with an observation. Obviously not meant to be taken literally as something that you need to see with your own eyes, but this observation might come in the form of user interviews, your product metrics, reports from your help desk, new features launched by competitors, or a number of other data sources. But what's really important here is that observation is specific, measurable phenomenon, not a feeling. So rather than the feeling that the search results are poor, how many customers of ours have complained? Is our click-through rate from our email digest declining? How can we go ahead and measure that observation such that we can start to take action on it? So we don't have time in this session to cover all the different techniques for different ways you might seek out to validate the sentiment. So for this example of search result quality, I'm going to focus on digging into our product metrics. Often during this process, what you'll find is that the data that you need to validate the sentiment isn't actually being tracked at all yet, until you need to plan for some time to add the instrumentation and collect enough data to even proceed before you jump the gun and get started. So in these spreadsheets, we just see some examples of some data from our product. We see how many jobs are clicked from search results, both in aggregate on a per user basis. And we can see that on average, our users are clicking on 5.23 jobs for each search that's run, and only a very small percentage of those searches don't have any jobs clicked through results. We can also maybe guess that the jobs that are being clicked are indeed appealing to these users, and that the click-through rate wasn't influenced by other factors like design or big flashing blinking button or something like that, since we see that our users end up applying to 68% of the jobs that they actually view. So they're exciting enough for people to actually bother go ahead and apply. So, in practice, this is just an example. We'd really want to corroborate this quantitative analysis. We'd want to do some observations of user searching. We want to track bounce rates and things like this. But these numbers are suggesting to me that the search result quality isn't really the issue here. And as what happens whenever you start digging into data and it becomes this long rabbit hole of exploration, what we are noticing, though, is something that's related to search that's really alarming. While users are applying to a very high percentage of the job search results that we presented to them, what's not happening is they're not getting interviews for many of the applications that they have submitted. So us, as our hypothetical company focused on job searches, success for our users is getting jobs, not finding great search results. So by using this data, We're able to form a little bit more of a specific observation that really showcases specifically how our product's performance isn't aligned with our users' goals. So after we crunched all the numbers, what we came up with is that we've observed that in the last 6 months, a full 60% of our users who are applying to jobs have not heard back from a single employer. That's super demotivating. We see people when they're applying for jobs, they just apply for more and more and more, figuring that it's a numbers game. And so if we're going to make a successful product to help address the job market, we need to do something about that. So great, we have a clearly identified problem. Can we actually do anything about it? When we looked at our product metrics, we might have found that our site had maybe something like attracted hourly contractors, but we only have full-time roles posted. So in some instances, you may discover real problems, but it isn't feasible within the scope of your product area to go ahead and address it. It might be a business concern. It might be a technical concern. It might be a concern for other teams. But in our example, we can see that the jobs that we have on site do in fact seem to be appealing to our users, but they're not seeing the success that they're literally looking for in their job search. So this part of defining our hypothesis of how we might address these problems, to me, is really the most fun part of the product process, but it's also the most challenging. So in order to be successful, our solutions really need to get at the core user needs. It's so easy to fall into the trap of deciding you need to create a system or improve relevancy or a whole nother other buzzwords, engagement, things like that. Users don't need systems or algorithms or engagement. What they need is a recruiter from a company they like to call them back from an interview. So in trying to break down how we might come up with some of these hypotheses, there's a number of techniques that I like to use to formulate potential solutions to this problem of users aren't getting interviews for the jobs that they're applying to. These are just a couple of examples. If you go ahead and Google ideation workshops and things like that and brainstorming techniques, you'll see a whole host of other ones with really great prompts. So I'm going to give an example here of the 5 whys in practice, which is one of my favorites because it's requires nearly zero overhead in Sharpies or paper or anything like that. But there's a number of other types of exercises that really help even PMs out there who might not consider themselves as creatives generate both in the box and out of the box ideas. What's really important too to remember is that while these are kind of framed as ideation techniques, solutions really don't have to be revolutionary. Sometimes the right solution might be as minor as a copy change that was confusing users, or as minor as a help tooltip to help them feel more comfortable filling out a form. So to use these 5 whys to hypothesize why our users aren't getting interviews, we can see how this technique helps to distill this problem down to much more specific and actionable reason. I always laugh at this exercise because it almost sounds deliberately childish in this constant repeating of why. But it really makes sense when you think even about how children try to internalize commands from parents that to them must seem very arbitrary and hard to understand. So you even see kids trying to get at, wow, okay, you asked me to do this. Why? Help me understand the real core reasoning behind this. So in this example, as we ask ourselves, why aren't our users getting interviews? Why? Well, they're applying for jobs that aren't a great fit. It's well, why are they doing that? Well, they think that the more jobs that they apply to, the better their chances. Why is that so? It's people aren't super educated about how recruiters work. We often see job seekers who believe that they can easily change industries or apply for a job that's much, much more senior than they currently are, because they don't know that recruiters really legitimately only call back candidates who already have all the necessary skills and experience to succeed at the job that they posted. Why is that? It's job sites let users search for and apply to any job without any consideration for whether or not that job would be a good fit. I can go on Indeed and I can search for a CFO job, and despite the fact I have no financial experience, they'll give me some job results and I can apply to them, and never did they tell me, hey, you're probably wasting your time. So now that we have one sense of a clearer definition of this problem, and we've gotten to the core of why users aren't getting interviews, now we can almost see that the product solution starts to surface itself. So in developing one potential hypothesis, what if we showed users a list of job openings where the required skills and experience level matched those on their resume? So through this exercise of the 5 whys, we can see that had we just jumped right into trying to improve our search algorithm, improve the relevancy, the speed, or some of the natural language text processing, we really would have missed the bigger opportunity that we need to do this work to understand that there's a really important distinction between jobs that exactly match the search term the person had entered, jobs that the user wants to apply for, and really the jobs the user is likely to be hired for. And this is where we go back to hopefully some of the UX and user and business research that we had done for this company and really confirmed that yes, end of the day, what users want is to get a callback. That's what success looks like for them. That all the cool search algorithms and the search tools in the world, if they're presenting jobs that you're never going to be hired for, it's ultimately a waste of time. So the last piece of this opportunity statement, we really need to keep ourselves honest. It's so easy to get attached to our own ideas. I even feel myself getting attached already. It's like, wow, we could do this thing that matches a uploaded resume to the job listing. We can highlight things, and wow, wouldn't that be so cool? But so this is why before projects start, we really need to define how we're going to determine whether or not our hypothesis was correct via some measurable improvement in our user needs being met. In this example, this job search feature is an existing product that already has customers. We already have data about them. We already have assets in the form of resumes and job listings. But so we can really look at how many users might be affected with our changes. We know what our addressable universe is. We have a sense of our ecosystem assets. But for new products, that can really often be challenging. It's hard to know ahead of time the impact that your feature is going to have. And you might have to look towards the success of similar products or rely on qualitative user feedback. But for defining opportunities, remember that we're positioning this in the lens of user needs focused. And so the achievements should always be related to something that a user needs or wants to do. And it shouldn't be focused around for company revenue or acquisition, even those things are very important to make sure that our roadmap aligns to them. So in this job search example, we already have this great asset. We already know how many users have resumes on file because they've already been applying to jobs on our site. We also have a healthy database of job listings. So we're able to analyze how many of our job listings would be a good match for our existing users so that we can project how many good employment matches we might be able to broker with a feature like this. We can compare that to how much success people are having through our current search engine and their hunt and peck job application strategy. So when we look how success might be defined, we can see in this example that we're really hoping for a measurable improvement in the number of applications that result in an initial phone screen. So in this phase, we're defining a small piece of a product problem. So definitely resist the urge to get too ambitious about their achievements. So given all the factors involved in getting hired, it's a bit unrealistic that this one feature would result in somebody actually getting the job of their dreams or getting a big salary bump. So ultimately, all we really want to do is know if are we brokering a good match, a match good enough for that recruiter to at least say, hey, I think this candidate is worth a call. So why do we go through this work of defining opportunities? As we saw in this example, we pretty dramatically refined our initial assumptions about search quality, and had we jumped right into engineering, we would have missed the real product opportunity. So this is a really great exercise for me to go through on my desk alone. It's something I go through product and engineering teams, but this is really more than just making sure that we're building the right thing, as important as that is. This opportunity structure definition brings This opportunity statement definition brings structure to ideation and allows you to have a shared conversation with others in the company. For larger projects, I like to involve a wider range of stakeholders in these sessions, as you'll often be uncovering many opportunities and creating many different hypotheses. And it's really important for everyone to have a shared conversation about how these ideas will be prioritized, what was considered and what wasn't considered. Otherwise, others in the company who haven't built these skills and this kind of product thinking may easily revert back to that very sentiment-heavy kind of feature request methodology. Also, by having a well-defined user achievement, we can also ensure that these individual product goals align to our business goals. So for our job searchers, if they're getting more interviews from their applications on our site than from other sites, would they be willing to refer new customers to build our, driver acquisition goals? Would they be willing to pay? Would they be willing to subscribe for a feature like this if the performance of these applications outpaces some of the performance that they're seeing on free sites? So what I've outlined today is just like one piece of the PM puzzle. I think somebody had said earlier, like these are all, there's so many tools for PMs. These are, by no means is this the only way to go ahead and develop opportunities and validate hypotheses, but it's a really great tool to really remind ourselves that no opportunities are ever 100% safe bet. Of course, if our data are faulty or the underlying assumptions that we've made about users' needs are incorrect, then we might not end up with a desired business outcome. So this is really just one piece of the puzzle. Feasibility is important. Do we even have the technology to be able to match this user-generated resume content with job requirements? Do we have the necessary design and engineering skills in order to make this, this very new user interface and interaction to finding a list of jobs understandable by our users? Will they be able to get their head around not entering search terms into the keyword field, but instead starting to upload their resume?
So a question just came in from John. John, let me hand it over to you as Taya switches back to video. John?
Hey, Taya.
Hey.
I have a question for you about the 5 whys. I've used it internally, I guess, with myself to kind of explore an opportunity problem. Can you briefly share how you've used it in group sessions with stakeholders? Is it just simply asking 5 whys in a row? Are you whiteboarding? What are your tips?
So I've done it both ways. Sometimes I'll do it just in a meeting when somebody has maybe dropped a bomb of, oh my God, we need to build an Android app. Okay, it's like, well, and usually I may phrase it a little bit less like why? But I think that usually that person's responses to those whys get challenged by others in the room, which is especially exciting because now we know that there is interest, but a lot more work is needed to build a shared understanding of what an Android app really is meant to do than just like, oh yeah, it seems reasonable. I've also done it on a whiteboard and in a way of analyzing some of the ideas that might come from more brainstorming sessions when people are just throwing out greenfield ideas and we're trying to hone them down into a list that's a bit more actionable.
So that's all the questions we have at the moment. Keep them coming into the productmentor.com/live. With that said, let me hand it back to you, Taya, to take it away.
Sure. Opportunity statements are really just one piece of the PM puzzle. It gives you a framework for the what. Design, engineering, marketing, they very much matter too. But by adding this process to the beginning of your product lifecycle, you really end up supercharging the efficiency of your team and setting yourself up for some great user-centric innovation. These are great this is great information to go into your design studios and your user testing with. Wow, I now have a hypothesis that what users really want is to get called back. I'm, again, willing to challenge that as well through user testing. But if we had just asked our users what they wanted, we heard from them that they wanted more relevant search results. But how they're defining relevancy and what's really going in their mind is not about the quality of search results that maybe an engineer might consider to be highly relevant. But really it's, hey, am I seeing my needs being met? And so as we go through and put some of these hypotheses into production and launch them, that last piece is also really important, the product metrics tracking. By having defined already what success is going to look like, our users getting a callback for 25% of the applications that they submit, we can make sure that all the instrumentation to track that is already in place. For example, if a recruiter is calling applicants back on the phone, that might not be something that is easy for us to track through our platform. We need a way to make sure that we're getting credit for having that as a successful application. So there may be a lot of product features required, even just to handle some of the analytics and tracking, but very much like resist the urge to skimp on some of the engineering work required for some of this more complex instrumentation. Otherwise, we'll end up just building a product roadmap on thoughts and feelings and sentiments, even if they do seem really, really reasonable.
Big thank you to our speaker, Taya Page, on the problem statement definition, or opportunity statement definition, as I think now we're supposed to call it, and who's Director of Product over at Artsy. And also big thank you from me, Jeremy Horn, the product guy, and everyone else who joined us today in the Product Mentor. And also don't forget, if you're interested in being a product mentor like today's speaker, Taya, to product people of all sorts all around the world, please visit theproductmentor.com and sign up today. And also, if you're looking to fill a new product job with a great product person, visit our very own free-for-all job board at theproductjobs.com.